Welcome to Golden Reflections, the podcast delving into the captivating 50-year journey of Northeast Ohio Medical University. I'm your host, Lindsay Loftus, and I'm excited to lead you through a series of heartfelt and nostalgic conversations with pivotal figures in NEOMED's history. Today, we sit down with leaders who have shaped the recent present and are positioning NEOMED for the future.
Hi, I'm Paul Bishop. I'm a former trustee of NEOMED and currently actively involved in advancing the cause of the mission of this wonderful school.
And hello, I'm Dr. Daisy Alford-Smith. I have previously served as a trustee for 9 years. And then for the past 3 years or so, I have also had the opportunity and pleasure of serving as the chairperson of the President's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. Additionally, I am extremely proud to have also been on the committee that interviewed and selected Dr. Langell.
Mark Mosley, and I am on the foundation board. I currently have the honor of serving as the chairman for the foundation.
Hey, I'm Sanjay Jinka. I graduated in the class of 2023 from NEOMED. When I was at NEOMED, I was a student on the Board of Trustees in 2021 through 2023, which was an awesome opportunity. And after NEOMED, I went on to University Hospitals in Cleveland, where I did my preliminary surgery residency. And I'm very excited to start plastic surgery residency at Wright State in Dayton, Ohio this June.
I'm Dr. John Langell, and I'm the president of Northeast Ohio Medical University, and I'm currently in my 5th year in this role.
Discuss the significance of revisiting our story 5 decades later.
Well, I think it's important to do. It gives us a chance to reflect on where we started and where we are now and where we're headed and the challenges that we face going forward. So I think by reflecting on how we got organized, how we are organized now, gives us a foothold on going towards the future. And we know it'll be a very challenging future indeed.
I would probably add to what Paul said. It's kind of hard to know where you're going if you haven't remembered where you're from. So remembering our roots, remembering our core purpose of what we said we were about 50 years ago, and how do we incorporate that now in an ever-changing world? How do we keep what is our core and our core belief as we move forward?
I think I might add as well, while we're talking about that, is I can recall so vividly, and I was around, believe it or not, even when NEOMED was first created. And at that time, often it was really seen as this little college, out in some farmland. And now NEOMED, it is not only recognized as a prominent university, but it is also recognized as a pivotal force in terms of impacting not only the education of health professionals, but also having an impact on community health outcomes. And I think that's extremely significant.
For me as a graduate now, when I was in high school, I had a family friend who did the NEOUCOM at that time, BSMD program. And that to me is such an amazing opportunity, and it was a dream to go there. And now, over a decade later, it's something that I've actually done, something I've actually graduated from. So it's really exciting to look back on the history of not only me, but all the graduates from NEOMED to see what amazing things they're doing now and the great impact they have on students everywhere.
I also think it's important to be able to not just reflect, but to understand the history in detail, to learn from the lessons of those who came before us. Some of those were positive and some of those were not to reproduce the things we shouldn't be doing, and to figure out what's gone well so that we can continue to capitalize on those elements that define who we are. As our mission doesn't really change, but our vision certainly evolves as to what we want to become.
That's a great point. It leads us to the next question. Can you reflect on the university's shining moments and its impact on health professions education?
Well, I'll speak to it initially first. And I think in my mind, in my experience, one of the most shining moments was when NEOMED decided to address the intake and admission of students from a holistic perspective, rather than just the MCAT. But every aspect of that student's life experiences was actually evaluated and was a determinant in that success of that student being, admitted, to the university. And I thought that was a shining moment. It really, really was, because we know how often students may not necessarily shine at that particular moment, but for NEOMED to recognize that there are differences and other factors was a significant impact on me and my impression.
I think that's well said, Daisy. And I think that shining moment led to us having a much more interesting class of students in each of our years in order to produce the kind of professionals we're looking to do. So thank you for beginning with that idea.
Sanjay, from a student, now alumni perspective.
I think one of the things that really stood out to me was the free clinic. I was very involved with the free clinic as a student, and I think that the impact they've had on students and our community has been a shining impact for NEOMED. That free clinic's actually won the Free Clinic of the Year award nationally multiple times, including many other accolades. And I think that really speaks to the quality of students and faculty at NEOMED and their passion to really serve this unique rural underserved population that they're positioned in, as well as the outer community that we're now growing into.
I mean, just to piggyback on what Sanjay said, having been, the director of the Cleveland Department of Public Health and seeing the various, inequities that were there, for the first time, I was able to observe the impact that NEOMED had in terms of having the student-led free clinic. And it wasn't just students learning in a laboratory, but the reality was there. And we know that ultimately afforded them the opportunity to have a much more greater impact on health outcomes.
Dr. Langell, anything to add?
I think every day we do something on this campus that is a shining moment. And some of those shine a little bit more brightly than others. And I can't just pick one, I can pick many. But I would say our ability during a once-in-a-century crisis, the pandemic, our ability to come together and to overnight deliver a truly high-quality education in a virtual manner quite seamlessly was a really shining moment for this university. And it wasn't a reflection of something that occurred in one day. It was a reflection of a talented and prepared team of individuals and a group of leaders and faculty and students, all the way to our board of trustees who came together to support what we needed to do to continue to complete our mission. I really think that was a shining moment for the university.
Wonderful. Mark?
If I could just look at it at a 50,000 foot level, think of where we were when we started. Think of not just the educational component. Look at the facilities. Look at everything, the size of the class that we had. How do I call it other than what Dr. Langell said, which is he sees it on campus every day. I'm looking at a witness of those moments over the entire period to just look at where we were and to look at where we are and what we're doing now. There's just more opportunities, more expansion, greater ideas, ability to do things that we couldn't do before.
Can you, each of you, share a cherished memory, something that happened to you at the university that you'd like to comment on today, and maybe what notable moment or milestone stands out for you?
Lindsay, I'm trying to think of a good answer for that. My answer would be attending the first graduation and sitting out there on the stage right in the front row and being able to look in the face of all of the graduates and see the pride and joy that they each individually show in their faces and with their friends. And then as their names are being called, to listen to each of the various families throughout the audience give this wild expression of joy for what they had helped happen to the member of their family and their friend, and witnessing that. And even as part of that, when there's always a few individuals who, when they graduate, come up there and stand in uniform and get sworn in to the service of our country. And having been a former member of the service of our country, it just gave me a great joy to see people. They first of all want to become a doctor or a pharmacist or professional, and then they want to go on and use that skill to serve their country. I just found the whole impression of being at a graduation a very exciting and thrilling opportunity.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with Paul. For me, that too was one of the most cherished memories, because just sitting on that stage as a trustee and looking out and seeing, Black, brown, yellow, white faces and families, just with tears in their eyes, as well as the graduates, just coming together and saying, I have made it. It has been worth every aspect of it. And so I saw the diversity and to see it coming together. And then I was also able to experience and see what others were feeling at that particular time with that particular height and level of accomplishment. And it was probably one of the most touching, obviously, in addition to me receiving that honorary degree as well on another time on the stage there at NEOMED. So all of those have been extremely cherished memories for me.
Several years ago, when our son was a teenager, he was diagnosed with supraventricular tachycardia, SVT, and it was not a mild case. So we were at that point, we were at Children's Hospital, and we had to bring in, who's the doctor we can bring in? The doctor that handled this performed the procedure on him. His interaction, his empathy with not just our son to him, but to us as parents. Guess where he graduated from? He graduated from NEOMED. And I think that says a lot too about the quality of the students. And again, it wasn't just the educational component, it was the ability to have empathy and interact with the parents who at that point were a little concerned about their child.
Sanjay?
Yeah, I agree with what everyone's saying. You guys hit the big moments that for students, family, and everyone. For me, definitely white coat ceremony was an incredible, amazing memory that I have. Getting the white coat with your name embroidered on there is so special, and just a fantastic ceremony with your friends and family. Then graduation, of course, is fantastic. I love the tradition NEOMED has where we create our own oath, a modification of the traditional Hippocratic oath, and actually do that at the ceremony. That was an incredible experience, something I got to be part of as part of the oath committee, and that meant a lot to me. And then, of course, match day. I think our match day ceremony is very unique in NEOMED, with the ability for students to pick their own music and the grandeur of it and the themes. It's all fantastic. And I think that really sets NEOMED apart from other schools. It really shows our culture and the way that faculty really comes together to make it a special day for students. And match day in particular, I think, is a really cherished memory of mine, particularly this year.
Sanjay, this group today represents the leadership at the university and the governance of which you were a part. But as a student, can you share some behind the scenes memories that we may not be aware of as faculty, staff, administrators at the university, something fun that you recall with your friends while you were a student?
There's so many things that happened in NEOMED. We had our weekly volleyball games, pickleball in the Sequoia gym. That was fantastic. We would always hang out at the village, do bonfires, all fantastic things. One thing that really stood out to me was casino night. Casino Night was a big fundraising event for our free clinic. We did our M1 year, and that was an awesome opportunity. We all got dressed up together in our lavish casino outfits, then went over to campus, and they had all these games. Faculty was dealing cards. They had drinks. It was great. And it was just a really fun event overall. And I think it really stood out as something that showcases the culture of NEOMED, not only from a student perspective, from a community perspective. We brought everyone together to have fun. And that definitely is one of the highlights on the M1 year. Similar to that, we do balls every year. They do the med ball. There's like a specific name. I forget the exact name, but every year they do a fundraiser of some kind associated with that ball. That's a lot of fun. And before graduation, they do a med ball at the Akron Art Museum. And they rent out the whole thing. They get food. You can tour the exhibits. And that's just really a fantastic way to have a lot of fun with your friends before you graduate, one of the last times seeing them. And I think it's a really unique thing that NEOMED does, and one of the more exciting experiences at the end of that M4 year. So I think all that really speaks to the great culture in NEOMED.
Mhm.
Well, it's funny you should mention Casino Night, because this podcast is in celebration of our 50th anniversary, which will conclude with Grand Casino in November. And I know that's something that Dr. Langell is looking forward to. And I want to see if he might be able to add a comment or two about his vision for Casino Night this November.
My first opportunity to go to an event at NEOMED was the Casino Night that Sanjay's referring to. In fact, it was 2019. I think that's the year that you were in M1. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, 2019.
It was an incredibly fun and engaging evening. And my team knows that I often joke about all the community events that take place. While they're really important and important causes, it feels like you're at a wedding. You show up, you sit at a table, you stare at the same people that are at your table, usually people that you work with. You hear somebody speak, you eat some food, and you leave the event. Casino Night brings everybody together. They engage, they have fun. And while the gambling you're doing, if you choose to do so, is really about donations and having a good time and working with each other. That was such a great event that we decided to do it again this year, and to do it in a grand manner, really trying to replicate, for those of you who've been to the casino in Monte Carlo, that same image with the amazing cars out front and the feel as you walk in that you're at the Monte Carlo casino, as a way for people to celebrate what it is we do, and at the same time to be able to fundraise for an important cause. And one of the most important things we raise for there is the student-run free clinic that Sanjay was talking about. So looking forward to that this year.
So for our audience, when they tune in, Grand Casino will be November 1st, 2024 on NEOMED's Rootstown campus. So we look for a great event to conclude our 50th anniversary and 50 years celebration. So Sanjay, thank you. I want to ask now how you've witnessed the evolution of the university since your time there or your time here, and what sticks out for you in terms of the evolution of the university?
Well, I'll start with that. And I think it's basically something that Dr. Langell just said. You know, all of the different events and activities, you sit at the same table, you know, and you just have to say hello to whoever you may be with, and it was more formal. And I have seen the evolution of NEOMED coming from a simple, methodical approach to teaching as well as relationships, you know, from faculty to students, to one where it's more like a family. It's a family. It's bringing together a community, you know, with families represented in that. The evolution, even in terms of, you know, how I can always remember when those new dorms were built, you know, and the variety of colors and all, but it also showed that the level of sensitivity to the needs not only of the students, but the community, and how the university needed to be represented in terms of how they wanted to portray themselves along the line of education, community, and relationships with students and faculty.
Daisy, that's just a wonderful answer. The only thing I'd add to that is what I sense in the evolution is everything you just said, but lifting the bushel off our candle so that the more people in all over Northeast Ohio learned who we are, what we are, and what we're all about. When I think about the beginning, and I go all the way back to Congressman Regula and the doctor who was involved in actually coming up with this place, and they stuck it in the middle of a remote area in between three universities with the beginning that Sanjay referred to. And nobody knew who the hell we were or what we were all about.
That's right.
And the challenge, and Dr. Langell's predecessor was very involved in that and did a wonderful job of just letting everybody else know and let them learn the very things you just described that we're all about, so that more people can join and celebrate the fact that we are producing outstanding healthcare professionals at NEOMED.
That's right. That's right. And along that line too, Paul, I can remember so very, very well, just as you mentioned about Dr. Langell's predecessor. We were talking about, he and I were talking about how can we get some of our congressmen out, to visit at NEOMED. And I was given the responsibility of presenting NEOMED to Congressman Louis Stokes. And Congressman Stokes said, NEOMED, what is it? Where is it? I mean, this man, who had been actually just filtering millions of dollars to what he called his community, his state, but he had no idea, and no one had ever approached him about it. And I can just see how we have, just matured and grown and expanded in all of those necessary ways in order for us to continue to be that pivotal university, on the cutting edge.
I want to add to my answer, Lindsay, because there's an analogy in my mind that I think works both in my background in business and at NEOMED. We find out in my little business that nobody's ever heard about, if we can get them on our physical presence, see our people, see what we're capable of doing, it changes everything.
That's
and
right.
I am just sure that's the same case. We now have such a footprint of an organization, the way we're put together. And if we can get potential visitors to come and actually see, watch, and get the feel of what's going on, that's what happens at our company. I think that's what happens at NEOMED. It isn't just physical. It isn't just seeing it. It's being there and watching how people operate within the environment that they're then visiting. So all the way back from Congressman Stokes, Daisy, where's NEOMED? What is that? To physically coming on the site. Oh my goodness. That is some evolution that we need to continue to make happen.
Anyone else like to add to that?
The only one that I would add is I don't have the history, of course, of some of the other people here, but I can tell you, and this is just speaking as a foundation board member that came in. I had been recruited by someone I had served on with another board over in Akron. And my time was winding up there. And they said, Mark, why don't you look at NEOMED? So they made the connection and I came on board. And I will tell you, I was used to a very, very interactive board where I came from. And when I first came in, it sometimes felt like it had a little two left feet, to say it bluntly. But I can say from that time until now, what I see as far as interaction between other people. So we talk about the school, but I'm talking now about the people who are supposed to be doing something for the school. So I see more of an interaction now, more of an openness, more of that camaraderie that I did not sense when I first came on board. And there is an energy. There's an energy that, and I think part of that was I came on board and then we all ran into COVID. But the same time, I am witnessing what that is like now, and there definitely is a drastic improvement, and that has an impression on me.
I think that's really well said, Mark. I think that energy is really something that I've witnessed changing. One of the biggest changes for me, though, has been our clinical partners. I know since Dr. Langell's come on, we've really formed a strong connection with university hospitals. I mean, I'm a surgical resident at university hospitals. My jacket says university hospitals right now. And being there is fantastic. I see that NEOMED students are being treated fantastically. They're getting world-class experiences there. And it's amazing being a resident there. A lot of my colleagues across multiple specialties are NEOMED graduates. I'll get a consult from someone from a completely different service, and they'll be a NEOMED graduate. They'll have some sort of NEOMED connection, and they'll know me through NEOMED. And those little things make just being a resident and actually graduating from NEOMED even feel that much more special. And then Daisy talks about Congressman Stokes, and now it's crazy to think that our students are actually rotating at the VA that actually bears his name.
Right.
And that's such a fantastic evolution that I couldn't even imagine when I started at NEOMED. We were having, a few smaller community-based partners that are still fantastic, but the opportunity to go to university hospitals and keep expanding, I think, is the most exciting thing for me.
Sanjay, you bring up a good point about the clinical relationships and the clinical partners. Dr. Langell, can you speak to that a little bit? I know that's been something that we're very proud of, and it's worth repeating for the podcast and for the listeners, though, that they understand what we've done as of late.
I'd be happy to. I think you need to get a better picture first of who we are and how we function. We've often been described as a community-based medical school. And what does that mean? It simply means you don't have your own hospital system. And you create a partnership with hospital systems in the region, ideally, to partner with you so that you can handle the didactics or the classroom elements and the simulation elements of training. And the final years for a pharmacy student that's in their fourth year, for a medicine student that's in their third and fourth year, for a certified anesthesia assistant student that's in their second year. And those teaching opportunities, those educational opportunities are done where the patients are. They're done at the health system themselves. And it's critical to have a really talented, engaged partner to deliver high quality education, because for instance, with the medical school, half of what they experience from a quality standpoint is outside of the confines of our campus. So it's important to give them the breadth and depth of experiences to do that. And we had what have often been referred to as community partners, which are outstanding places to get healthcare. Mercy Health in Youngstown, Altman Hospital in Canton, Akron General Cleveland Clinic in Akron, Summa Healthcare in Akron, Akron Children's Hospital, which is really the fifth largest or fifth busiest children's hospital in the country, provided outstanding clinical opportunities. But the addition of university hospitals now, which is ranked in the top 14 academic health centers in the country, is something truly substantial, so that our students who are interested in the academic practices of healthcare can work with leading figures in the country in surgery and neurosurgery and medicine and orthopedics and rheumatology. These are the groundbreaking researchers who are looking to transform healthcare through new knowledge creation. And many of our students will want to go that pathway, while others are going to be wanting to deliver the more community-based pathway and delivering care directly to the community themselves. So this has really expanded both quality and the scope of what we can offer to our students. We've strengthened the partnerships with our current partners, increasing rotations, increasing exchange between the two institutions in multiple parties, and we've grown new ones. So we're really in a great position that it's going to allow us to continue to grow over time.
Thank you. Wonderful. Each of you have a very unique connection to NEOMED. Are there any other memorable experiences or events or traditions or anything that sticks out for you that you would like to share with us today?
One of the things that I have really appreciated is when we have our regional meetings. So they'll pick one, there'll be a group from Canton, or we'll have a group in Akron and we met over at Fairlawn, or they're over in Youngstown, where we have an opportunity to pool some of those people in that region together I think it helps strengthen not just for those of us who are serving on a board or for those of us who are on staff, but it is also a great opportunity for other people to see who we are and what we do. And it allows for us to keep that interaction and that dialogue open with all of us. Something like that is not something that can be once and done. It has to be continuous. And I have appreciated that. And I've actually, even though I'm generally an Akron boy, I attended the one in Canton, and I also went to the one in Youngstown because there's some people there. Take a drive and go see some people. I found it was very helpful.
To answer your question for me, Lindsay, one of the things that stands out for me and one of the real joys, all of us who get to be around this wonderful world as long as I have had so many different experiences being on lots of different boards and committees. And they don't often have what we enjoy at NEOMED. And I'm referring to people just like Sanjay. When all the years when we had the variety of terrific students who chose to get involved in governance, in addition to wanting to become a physician, I always found the joy of the connection, because I can remember so often we would hear that the students really had no idea what a board does, why it even exists, or what's going on at the university, or what are they deciding to do. So for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think having students there and hearing their perspectives as the board deliberates various points was incredibly valuable. But then it gave them an opportunity to then go back to their student body and then to share the information. And not only that, but to then determine whether they had a potential future in being a potential administrator and a leader in the healthcare field. So I think it's synergistic in many ways. And for me, having the involvement with the young folks there validated my involvement to watch them develop. And hopefully they enjoyed it so much that they're going to continue doing it.
When I first started at NEOMED, probably almost 20 years ago or somewhere like that, because I served 9 years as a trustee, and then I've been off quite a few, and then with the advisory council. But I saw, and what was just so moving for me was not only the pharmacy that was on site, but also, and I've mentioned this previously, the student-led free clinic. But then when it was announced that there was really going to be services for mental health and substance use, that just blew me away. It blew me away. I mean, it really touched me, because my entire life as a health professional has always been advocating for the underserved, advocating for access to those needed services. And it didn't really carry, a shining star with it, because often many of the individuals that needed that particular service had no place to go. And NEOMED stepped up, and said, this is what we're about, not only in terms of affording the students the opportunity to have a true experience in terms of education and training and treatment, but also to be able to treat those individuals that are most in need. And that, you call it a shining moment, call it a memorable time, but it was just an aha moment. I was no longer a trustee, but I was the advocate for NEOMED.
I think that's wonderful. And I think you all hit the same point, which is that NEOMED really fosters this transformational leadership. I know that's a big word we use a lot on campus. And I know that's a newer phrase in the NEOMED lexicon, but even before that phrase, I think NEOMED students and faculty have always been really showcasing transformational leadership and everything they do. And I think there's a few examples of that. One that really comes to mind for me is Match Week. So, this year I had an opportunity to come back and serve as an advisor for students who may not have matched in that week. And I think NEOMED is a very unique thing where we create this room where anyone who doesn't match can come and get advice and kind of get that not only like practical support, but the social, mental, emotional support for going through that. And obviously there's faculty there, but there's also alumni volunteers and there's other fellow students helping out as social support. And I think that culture of coming back to help and volunteering your time really speaks to the types of leaders that NEOMED creates. And that for me as a student and now an advisor going through that week, that's been a very fantastic part of NEOMED and a really special one.
Well said. Thank you.
Ditto.
Let's transition in the last few moments of our discussion today. I'd like to hear from you what you think the future holds for NEOMED. What might the next 50 years look like?
Well, the way NEOMED is going, I honestly think that NEOMED could replace many of the other university medical schools throughout this state of Ohio. You know, they lead by example. And I'm not saying that in a joking way, but I see the differences. I've had some experience with others, and 50 years from now, I mean, that could be it. 50 years from now, I see campuses of NEOMED in every city, in the state of Ohio. 50 years from now, I can't even imagine the number of students that have graduated, from NEOMED. And 50 years from now, NEOMED could be the leader in terms of health outcomes and impact, with a demonstrated level of success along with it. That's what I see.
Going off of what Daisy said, I think NEOMED's really going to be growing. That's the biggest thing. And for me as a medical student, medical graduate, I talk a lot about medicine, but NEOMED has College of Medicine and College of Pharmacy, dentistry now, graduate studies, et cetera, anesthesia. And I think with all these different disciplines working together under the same roof, it's going to create a really unique experience and really draw a really unique student. And I think that we're going to become well known, not just in the Northeast Ohio area, but even throughout the state and nationally for the kinds of experiences we create. Then outside of that, on the national level, I think that our alumni networks are going to continue to get stronger and stronger. I know that some of my peers actually met Dr. Langell at Tampa recently at an alumni event. And I think that really speaks to the amazing reach our alumni have. And I'm really excited to see what kinds of opportunities they'll continue to create for our graduates and the amazing things they'll continue to do. At university hospitals, I have a chance to work every day, even today, actually, with Dr. Raymond Anders, one of the graduates of NEOMED that actually invented the diaphragmatic pacer, a groundbreaking invention that he actually was able to put into the actor who played Superman. And I think that really speaks to the innovation and amazing impact that our alumni can have. And I'm continue to be excited to see what our alumni will do in the future.
I would add one thing that we are doing now, and I believe is both a challenge and a result of our success. And it's something that Dr. Langell had spoken of earlier, that we are engaging, we find talented and engaging partners. And so I'm using that word twice, engaging with them. But you get the idea that we are forming as many partnerships as we can for people that whether they are alumni or whether it's the other hospitals, how can we engage more with them? Finding that talent that allows us then to become, again, not the regional hospital that's between three cities in Ohio, but to be one that they see and they recognize on a national level. I think we're doing that now, and I think that will be a goal for us that will help us achieve what we are envisioning for the next 50 years.
As I look forward, Lindsay, to the next 50 years, I sense it'll be incredibly challenging and there'll be unbelievable developments. My thought is, and this whole hour's conversation reflects a part of my view, and that is, I think if we identify the core competencies of what we have at NEOMED, many of them could be identified by the relationship type of things that we have created, not just the educational component of how to be a doctor or how to be a pharmacist. It is all the various ways we talk about how we relate and how we create leaders and how we're better communicators. Doctors are going to continue in the future, in my view, to need to be able to relate to patients in such a way that builds on the competencies that is why NEOMED is so good at what we do. How you communicate with your patients is going to continue to be the challenge. So I think the next 50 years, is we need to leverage the core competencies we have and continue to build on those and not try and become all things for all people, but be sure that we're very good at what we do and how we do it. So as this challenging future faces us, we're prepared with it with those core competencies driving us.
You know, when you talk of 50 years, and I had this experience several months ago at the Maltz Museum. And, you know, this may sound really crazy, but I see someone like Dr. John Langell actually continuing to teach from an AI perspective. You know, and I mean, all of that, you know, and faculty, staff, and students still learning from him. I mean, that's where we are. We are in this AI world now. And I've seen that with other community leaders where they've actually taken it, and you can go to the Maltz Museum and talk to them, you know, ask them questions. And this will be there for students 50 years from now. And I just think that that's going to be part of our future.
Well, if I bring your conversation full circle, I had the opportunity to read Silver Reflections, the first 25-year history of the university. And it was reassuring to hear the stories from early leaders of how they were in financial straits, losing $1 million a year, which back then would have been a lot, and trying to figure out what they were going to do to solve the problem and how they overcome it and how they continued to grow despite a number of challenges. And now we can look at where we're at, and I can speak well to the last 5 years to say that the universities really, I think, thrived, are at a time when higher education is suffering and is going to continue to suffer. We're expecting a 15% decrement in the pipeline of students coming into higher education. But I think we're well poised for it. In the last 5 years, our financial position has grown stronger at a time when others are faltering. Our bond ratings have increased either year over year, either by actually increasing the rating or positive outlooks, which is third-party demonstration that we're doing well. Our enrollment has grown year over year at a time when that's not happening at any other university in the state of Ohio. Our College of Medicine is growing. 1 in 13 physicians in the state of Ohio is a graduate of Northeast Ohio Medical University, about 1 in 8 in Northeast Ohio. About 90% of our College of Pharmacy graduates stay and serve in the region. We've added on a College of Dentistry. It looks like we're about to add on a College of Nursing here very soon. We've expanded our partnerships. And we've got an amazing and beautiful and thriving and growing campus. So where else can you go and get this quality of campus, this level of quality of education on the campus? And when you do your clinicals, you got to go to the Cleveland Clinic, the number 2 rated health hospital in the country. University hospitals, top 14 academic medical centers in the United States and top 25 in the world. Akron Children's Hospital, 5th busiest in the country. Summa Healthcare, just recognized by HECO as one who's so innovative and different that they're coming in to do a partnership to demonstrate how healthcare can be practiced differently around the country and around the world, to the number 6 largest health system, Mercy Health, out in Youngstown. Where else can you gain this experience? So for our growth, it's really going to be unlimited, but it should be focused on who we are, what's our niche, what are we strong at? Mr. Bishop said, what are our core competencies? Delivering high quality, high value opportunities to our students and to our community and to others who want to work with us. And it's finding those right opportunities to grow and serve our mission and our need, and not trying to dilute ourselves and do things that can be done better by other people.
Well said. I want to take this opportunity to thank each of you for participating today. We've had a chance to speak with administrators and faculty, staff, and alumni across all the decades, and it's been wonderful for each of those folks and you today to share your thoughts and feelings. As we close, I'm going to call on each of you to share one final thought for our audience. It can be anything that you would like to share, but one final thought from your chair, and I think we'll start with Mr. Bishop.
My final thought would be to look right into the screen and talk to Sanjay and just tell you, young man, how proud I am for two reasons. One, to have been involved in a very small part of the university while you became a doctor. And the bigger part is to see you, to congratulate you, to realize that you are a shining example of why we exist, why we do what we do, and to know that the future patients that will be treated by you, good doctor, will benefit from everything we have been doing and will continue to do in the future. Press on, and congratulations, and thank you.
Sanjay?
Thank you so much, Paul. That really means a lot. I think that NEOMED really, to me, is about the people, not just the students, but the faculty, the staff, everyone. Everyone in NEOMED is really invested in the students succeeding and the patients having the best outcomes. And it's that focus on empathy and the holistic picture that I think really matters. And I genuinely love my time at NEOMED. Behind me, there's the NEOMED sign right there. Actually, it fell off the wall, but it's back there. And I got my NEOMED badge on my desk right here. So, I really do love NEOMED, and I think that they really create some amazing people, and they have some amazing people working for them. So I'm really excited to see what we can do in the future.
Thank you. Mark?
Don't ever believe or think that what you do doesn't make a difference. So let me turn that into a positive. Everything you do, whether you're a student, a volunteer, you're on staff, and that's for the history that brought us to where we are and where we're going. Everything we do makes a difference.
Daisy?
NEOMED, in my mind, is the epitome of an ideal university that not only encompasses and reaches out to connect students from an educational component, but also from a realistic life experience, from their history of what they've done. And they allow them to never forget who they are and where they have come from while experiencing a whole new educational life. And that's something that is ideal. And I'm grateful to be a part of NEOMED. And I take my hat off to the leadership, Dr. Langell, as well as the rest of the leadership that's sitting here, you, Lindsay, and the other staff. Dave, I know you're there recording everything, but it takes, just as they always say, a village to raise a child. It takes a village to understand the dynamics of that particular family and that village in order to have that student, that faculty, and staff member excel in whatever way they can in order to make that significant contribution.
Dr. Langell?
Building on the theme that we just heard, it's about the people. It's about the team of individuals that make up this organization. That's the reason we've been so successful across the years. Speaking as a president who's sitting in the seat now, I have an incredibly talented team of faculty and staff who are dedicated to the mission. We have outstanding students that we serve, but I'm truly thankful for my board of trustees. The interaction between a board and a president can make or break a university. And I have this group of incredibly talented, diverse, and engaged and supportive board members. There's never arguing. There's never really any discontent in that meeting. It's how do we work together to do great things? And without their support, we wouldn't be where we're at right now. So I'm truly grateful for the board that I've had, and it's changed over the years. I've had some great members who've come off and great members who've come on, and I'm very thankful for the team that we have here.
Thank you. This has been wonderful. We sure appreciate your time. and your candid responses to the questions. And so thank you for participating.
Thank you for doing this, Lindsay.
Thank
Great,
you.
good job, good job. Daisy, wonderful to see you again.
You too, Paul. Thank you.
Great, and Sanjay, I'm very proud of you. Hang in there, man. You are why we do this.
Thank you very much, Paul. I really appreciate it.
Golden Reflections is hosted by Lindsay Loftus and produced by Dave Vidito. Thank you for listening.